we should give Jim the rest of the time because he's got something interesting to show us that will deal quite nicely with the problem of beginners creating their LaTeX document.
Just a moment.
Now we see the wave packets and dispersion
Okay.
relation page.
Okay, very good, very good. Okay, so this is my MiniLaTeX.Lamdera.app, and I've mainly used it for doing things like writing class notes. So you can use it for some, reasonably sophisticated things, despite the fact that it's very much in the genre of what Jonathan has been discussing of a limited tech environment. But it's certainly adequate for doing things like this. And the feature that it has is that there's an integrated editor. And I'll do something, I'll change something in this, and then I'll show you what happens if you try to do something new. So let me find some equation that I can, okay, let us analyze. Okay, so let me change this first cosine to a sine and see if it can handle that. And you see how it typesets essentially instantaneously. So you can view this as sort of MathJax plus, because the mathematical typesetting is done either by MathJax or Katek. And let me change this formula back before I forget. But it also gives you other features. For example, you have automatic section numbering. I'm not sure if I have theorems in here because this is physics, but you have equation numbers, you have cross references, you have links to other things. You have sort of a fairly substantial subset of basic LaTeX that you can use. But probably what's more interesting in this context is to see how a beginner might use this. So let me make a new document by pressing the new button in the upper left of that light blue thing. So I have the option of making a LaTeX document, a markdown document, or a plain text document, but I'll make a LaTeX document and I'll just call it today. Okay, so it's created it with a dummy section. And let me show you how somebody might start writing. So Pythagoras, if I can spell today, Pythagoras says, and let's write some math. And I'm not going to close the math expression just yet, and you'll notice that it's displaying an error, but it's displaying it in line in the rendered text, so you get immediate feedback as to what's going on. I apologize for my typing. And there it's rendered. And again, it renders things in essentially real time. So let me change an exponent here. I'll change the exponent 2 on the C to a 3, and it's changed. Let me do one more thing. I don't know, let's see, what shall I do? Begin theorem. Okay, I got to concentrate on my typing, folks. There are many primes. And again, notice that there's an error message displayed in the rendered text. And let me close the environment so that, sorry, I'm one of those people that cannot chew gum and type at the same time. Anyway, there it is. It's rendered that theorem. So what is the point of this? The point is that one can, let's see, I'm trying to get, for some reason with all this screen sharing, I can't see the very bottom of the screen where there is a, I see, that's the problem. Let me do one more thing in just a moment here. So there are various other things that you can do besides, type LaTeX in real time. If I want a PDF document, I press that button, I wait, and there's the PDF document, which I can print. I can also go to my doc tools, and one of the things I can do is I can export this to a LaTeX file, and it's on my hard disk now. So I should say that the internal format of this is something I call MiniLaTeX. It's kind of a subset / variant of TeX. Notice that I didn't put any preamble. I never said begin document. I never said end document. But if I export it to LaTeX, it puts all that stuff in. So I have a regular LaTeX file that can be handled in the usual way. So that's basically it. I'll stop the screen. Well, maybe any questions before I stop the screen share.
How did you generate the PDF?
I have a little tiny server written in Haskell, actually, that sits on another machine. And this program it converts the MiniLaTeX file to standard LaTeX with the begin doc and all that stuff, ships it to the server. The server accepts it, runs SheLaTeX on it twice and sends it back. Or more precisely, sends a link to the PDF file.
Okay, so you're using a cloud server to do things for you.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. One thing I should say, I haven't really thought about accessibility as I started to develop this, but I've been learning a lot in these sessions. And, I think there's a lot of possibility for doing something here, but I need to learn some more. One fact, of course, is that, every document on the system has its source code along with the rendered text. So there are a lot of possibilities for doing something with accessibility, although that said, I have not done anything. So, but that's certainly something that could be done. I should also say there's a certain amount of GitHub integration, not in the kind that Jonathan showed, but at the moment, it's simply a way of archiving stuff on GitHub so you have an additional backup. You can also modify it there. If you have collaborators, they can use it from there as well.
You could set up an action on GitHub so that whenever you whenever you save your work to GitHub,
right,
a whole bunch of stuff gets done.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that could include publishing to a website.
Right. See, my point here is that this is already on a website. So the moment let me show you one other thing here. Let me see. Let's edit this. You notice that this document is private. However, if I say public, pardon me? Oh, I changed things. Let's see. I was getting ready to. There, can you see it now?
Yeah, that's good.
Okay, so let me return it to its original state. So I'm in the edit mode. This document is private at the moment. If I say public, then it is now on the web. And there are various ways of accessing this. There's a search bar. Let me show you. I'm going to search for, I don't know, quantum. And that brings up a bunch of documents that have quantum in the title or in the keywords. So it's, in addition to an editing system, it's a publishing system with a search feature. And so, for example, if I want to know about the discrete Fourier transform, there it is. That happens to be a public document, which is why it was found in that search. Another thing you can do is, I'm pretty much the only user, well, me and Aristotle, we're the only users on the system right now. So I have a home page, and my home page, in addition to this rather nice image, contains links to various things, various sets of notes on the system. So there are various ways in which you can use this to publish things as well. It's an ongoing experiment, I hope, eventually to make something of it. Any other questions?
Jim, do you envision being able to support more languages, not just English, easily, or?
Well, you can certainly type in any language that you can do Unicode in. I mean, I've tested that out with various alphabets. Now, I haven't, since I am an English speaker, I haven't really tried much of anything else. But
full Unicode support's a big step in the direction.
Yeah. Another thing is that because the PDF generation is done through SheLaTeX, If you type in a different alphabet, it will handle that.
Thanks.
I mean, let me show you just something quite stupid here. I'll do something on my homepage. I'll say this, I don't know. I'll write something that has an accent in it. Okay, so I wrote étal in French with an accent aigu, but you can, I've tested this with Arabic and Greek and Russian and various things. It works. One thing I don't have any idea about is right to left text, which you might be interested in.
I'd be interested, but not immediately.
Yeah.
But it sounds
Yeah, so I
exciting.
have no experience in that, but presumably that can be done. I'm working on a special text editor that gives some integrated development environment features for this program. Like, for example, if it makes an error, I would like it, if there's an error, I would like it to be highlighted in the source text as well. But because I have full control over that editor, I should also be able to do right to left text. But I, again, have not gotten around to doing anything like that.
I'll actually tell you on right to left text, I actually find that it's better to use an editor that either flips the screen or leaves it backwards. Because when you actually edit with something that fixes it live, the direction, your arrow directions change back and forth sort of very inconveniently.
I see.
You're never sure which is the natural order.
I'll have to,
We'll talk about it
I'll
one day
study
if you
this and
want.
get with one of my Israeli friends to help me out on it.
So you just gained another Israeli friend.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Pleasure. So Jonathan, I'll stop screen sharing now. There we go.
Well, I'm impressed, and I've seen it before, but it's come on a long way since then, so I'm even more impressed. And it's all written using a functional programming language.
Yes, functional programming.
No assignment statements.
Yes.
I think we've sort of got a jigsaw with pieces. We don't have all the pieces. We've got pieces from different jigsaws. We've got, well, it's not a jigsaw. We've got a lot of things that we can put together. And if we can put them together in a satisfactory way, then we can do much more than if we just stick to what we know. And I think the way to do that, one of the ways to do that, is to focus on problems that affect users.
Okay, could I ask a question of Kelly?
I think so, yeah.
Kelly, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yes. So is there any, what's the situation with screen readers for web apps?
As far as accessibility goes?
Yes. And all, I mean, accessibility in two senses, the sense you're thinking of and in the sense I'm thinking of, which is, are there things out there that I could experiment with?
For web apps, do you mean things like what you created that create PDFs?
Well, yes. I mean, not actually. Probably the PDF is not the way to go, but because the source text is there, it could read the source text in some way. That would probably be the way to go.
Jim, can I ask, are you wondering how accessible is the MiniLaTeX app I've made, and how can I make it more accessible? Is that roughly your question?
Well, I was thinking sort of in general, if you have some kind of an app that presents not only the rendered text, but the source text, can you use that source text in some way that is, both that the developer can use to integrate it and that will give a pleasant user experience for someone who needs that accessibility?
I think Paulius can tell us more about the usefulness of source text than anyone. I think he's well qualified if he's willing.
So I'm actually using the source code for understanding all the LaTeX documents, because it is impossible to understand it in compiled versions, or even not fully possible to understand. But
And Paulius, what is the application that you use for that?
mainly I use a simple Windows Notepad.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's fast and quite flexible.
I have tried, for example, experimenting with, there's a built-in text to audio application for the Mac, but it doesn't do very well with, if you present it with a formula, for example, it doesn't read that in a way that I find particularly enlightening. In ordinary text, it's fine, but...
I'd like to act as a chair for a couple of minutes. It's 7:30, so anybody that wants to stay can stay, but 7:30 is when people can go without being rude. And the second thing is that somebody called OS has arrived, and I think they've fallen into a time zone snafu. So we're actually at the end, and they're welcome to stay and talk with whoever else wants to stay. I think we're getting agenda items up for 2 weeks' time. So next week it's beginners. So we've got some agenda items coming in there. And the following week is accessibility. And I sort of see a question coming up, which is, how can sighted developers learn about accessibility for people who have visual impairments? How can they develop their understanding of that? And what tools can they use? That's one of the questions I think that's coming up is, the stuff that Kelly was saying about the scripts, the actions that the R community have that produce accessible outputs is also a very important thing to talk about in 2 weeks' time. And next week we talk about beginners. So both Jim's talk and my talk or demonstration are relevant to beginners. So at that point, with all respect to Jim, I'd like to allow people that want to go, and we'll give a few seconds for that to take place. And then we can continue to talk longer if we want to talk longer.